All right, guys, welcome in here. It is another edition of the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. It is powered by WagerTalk.com. It's all about college hoops, guys, and we got more than 50 games on the card today. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. You know him. And Ralph, exciting card here tonight. It was a great card last night. I know that you opted to straddle the fence there, but a couple of plays that you opted to deliver here on the show, a la Wichita State. Some of our best bets we threw out there were pretty darn impressive last night.
Yeah, I made the wrong choice. We talked about Illinois and, Air Force. And, it's a catch-22, Joe. When we talk about games that you leave off,
yep.
Do you want them to win? Well, yes, you want every opinion to win. But you also say there's a reason you left them off because Utah State was in that must-win situation, against an inferior team. And, the price we were getting with these dogs, because the dogs were playing well, was a few points less than it should have been based on if the game was 2 weeks ago. So that's just part of the balance when you're handicapping.
Yep.
Looking at where there's value, why there's value, and when there's value.
Yep, absolutely correct. And while it was a limited card last night, we did see a whole bunch of action. University of Miami obviously kind of crapped themselves there last night. Duke came back with a vengeance, and so they added a win there, blowing them out by 30. But you know what everyone's talking about, Ralph, the blowout of Kansas, Kansas State from Kansas, which wasn't expected. Of course, the malice at the palace too there was definitely not expected. So they did throw out, they did suspend obviously the junior there, De Silva for his actions there of stepping over the guy and causing the fight. What do you do with Kansas now in a situation like that moving forward? They still got to play each other moving forward, but it'll be interesting dynamic to see where Kansas goes from here.
That game's not till February 29th. And, I just think it just shows, Kansas can be a tough team. And, again, you're talking about losses to Duke, Villanova, and Baylor. So, you are there. You are one of the best teams in the country. You just learned from it. Perhaps it helps them keep kids composed later in games.
Yep.
You learn from the mistakes. And, I think when they play again, I think the coaches are going to just have drilled into them that this cannot happen again. That, I don't think anything will happen in the second meeting.
Yep, they'll be all right there. But I don't know, Ralph. Texas Tech, Chris Beard got to be pulling his hair out there on the road. Great first half, dominating first half, and then just completely fell apart. TCU waxes him in the second half, Ralph, and pulls away there 65-54. Didn't see it coming. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I really did think the way they handled it in the first half, it wouldn't be a problem in the second half.
Well, that's that home edge. And, I do want to mention this, Joe. On Twitter, I just tweeted it out. I'll start doing this once a week. But I tweeted out every conference's record, conference versus conference, as a home favorite and as a home dog, the ATS and the over-under numbers. So, you look at the Big 12, home favorites in the Big 12, just FYI, through last night, 13-9. Home dogs, 2-5. So the favorite in Big 12 conference games, 18-11 against the spread. But last night, one of those cases where it didn't occur. And, it's defense. Chris Beard has Jameis Ramsey as his top player. Mm-hmm. And, when Ramsey just struggles a little bit, he was 1 of 6 from three-pointers. He only had 15 points. He had 4 personal fouls. He was just out of his dimension in a physical game.
Yeah, it was interesting, and of course Purdue just we told you about that undefeated record there at home, but they did good in the first half. But Illinois just kind of trounced them there in the second half. Purdue falls to the wayside once again as an away team. Finally, Ralph, away team in the Big Ten. You had mentioned Illinois playing really well, coming in with 4 wins, and they run away with it.
Well, the Big Ten, the home teams were very, very strong early. We've talked about this, the Penn States and the Rutgers, but, I'm just looking at my chart now. Big Ten home favorites, 20-15, so still 57% against the spread. Big Ten home dogs, 10-4. A lot of those Big Ten home dogs, 10-4, though, were with Penn State and Rutgers early in the year, where people weren't giving them enough respect for as good as they were.
Right. Yeah. No, it was a very interesting night there. And, of course, it'll be an interesting night tonight as we take a look at some of the big performances from folks there last night. Desmond Bain from TCU bringing it there in that upset over Texas Tech. And how about Iowa State taking down Oklahoma State there, Ralph? Also at home, were able to take care of business and kind of get back on track. And, Kentucky, what a shock. They beat Georgia, but Georgia covered. Yep, they covered. Ashton Hagen's also for Kentucky starting to make a name for himself there.
Yeah, well, we said who was the better player on the court, Ashton Hagens or Edwards, and Hagens proved last night he was. And it's always neat to see a battle when you had Jackson from Toledo and Preston from Ohio, each having 29 and 7 and 27 and 8. So those two players combined for 56 points, 10 rebounds, and 15 assists.
Yep, absolutely. Great day by them, and of course some of the covers there last night, Ralph, that we had seen. And of course, we told you Purdue there and Illinois covering by 23. That was big. How about New Mexico? Last night there, Ralph. Was that San Jose? Where was that? No.
That was at New Mexico.
That was at New Mexico. That's right.
They've won 13 straight there. And now San Jose State was one of the teams that my power ratings had me leaning with San Jose State. But I just said I cannot go against New Mexico off back-to-back road losses, returning home in the pit where they had blown out San Jose State each of those previous two seasons. So, it was just the offense was out of sync on the road, and it clearly got in sync.
Yep, and LSU, Florida, too. That was a big battle there yesterday. Florida had a halftime lead, but back and forth in the second half. LSU, give them credit, they came back, and that flew over the total.
Yeah, you look at LSU's wins now, 2-4-4, 1-2. That's their last 5 wins. So, that's the team I look to fade. Those teams that keep winning but don't cover, they still get the inflated line against them. So, I'll keep looking to play against LSU.
Yep, and of course on the card here tonight, guys, we've got, like I said, over 50 games going on tonight in college hoops. Still time for you to be able to get over to wagertalk.com. Make sure you hit up Ralph's page there. He's going to have plays all week long for you there right at wagertalk.com. Go to the Cal Sports page. And Ralph, trends and angles here before we take a look at the market. There's some great battles here tonight. What'd you come up with?
Well, Alabama's a team that I'm on right now. They've covered 10 straight games. Rutgers, a team we talked about, they are on a 9-0 ATS run. UC Davis is on a 10-1 ATS run. A team we don't hear much about, Cal Baptist, because they're only in the second year of the WAC. And, now that the WAC is on the regularly line board, people are starting to learn who these teams are. They are on a 19-6 ATS run. North Carolina on the flip side. Again, North Carolina now 3-13. And couple totals for you. Let me click over to the total sheet. We have, let's not forget about New Orleans. We talked about New Orleans last week, 16-2-1 over under.
Yep.
Oh, Houston Baptist, guess what? They're 12-2 over under, Joe. So we'll talk about their line in a minute to see how high it is.
That's
and Loyola Chicago and Rutgers, both 7 straight unders.
Yep, what a shock. Knew that there, Houston Baptist. Rutgers, Iowa, Penn State, Michigan, guys, a couple of Big Ten matchups. We'll talk about those in the featured section coming up. As we take a look at some of these market movers here, Ralph, talk to me. It's an intriguing, man. There's a lot of intriguing matchups. Big East, Big Ten here tonight. But I'll start right at the top. This Xavier game at home taking on Georgetown. Xavier seems to be getting a little bit more love here. Opens up at 3.5. I'm seeing 4.5s on the board, Ralph, as the steady flow of at least bigger dollars coming towards Xavier at home, taking on a Georgetown team on the road, and it's just not a good spot for Georgetown, is it?
Well, I don't know. What's wrong with Xavier? This was a top 20 team that, losing to Seton Hall is not bad. Losing to Creighton at home isn't bad. Losing to Marquette on the road's not bad. But as a whole, for you to lose 3 straight games is bad, if those are individually spread out. I read the Cincinnati Enquirer this morning, and Travis Steele just lit into him. And he just said, there are going to be plenty of changes. I don't know which 5 are starting. Whichever 5 practice the hardest are going to start. So, this really is a circle the wagons game, which it would either have me playing Xavier or pass. I like when the coaches sit some guys to start and maybe give some guys a little wake-up call that they're sitting a few minutes and, if they weren't trying hard enough. I don't know. I've only watched bits and pieces of those games, so I don't know if there's really a lack of effort or just, he's got to shake things up. But either way, there will be some shaking tonight. So, yeah, I lean with Xavier for that reason.
There must be, Ralph, another Big East matchup. There must be a little Seton Hall fatigue here at home taking on Providence because they opened up as a 9.5-point home favorite, but I'm seeing 8.5s out there right now. So a lot of love being thrown towards Providence. Maybe is it that we're getting a little too overvalued here on Seton Hall?
Yeah, I think you're just paying a premium. We know, the world knows Seton Hall is a good team, at 14-4 and, having an NBA player on the court. And but, yeah, I agree that this line's a little too high. Providence, since Providence lost to Florida and then beat Texas, again, they have 2 losses as well, but the losses at home to Butler and then on the road to Creighton, a 4-point loss to Creighton on the road. It's going to be a war, and I think Providence has a strong enough defense to be able to withstand it. And you've got, you have 4 senior starters. So when you have 2 senior guards and a senior point guard, that gives you an extra set of confidence going on the road.
Love also, Ralph. We'll go to the AAC quick here because there is a very interesting matchup here tonight for a road team as a road favorite, and you don't get a lot of these. But how about Cincinnati on the road taking on Temple? Never an easy place to play, never an easy matchup. And the money keeps flowing towards Cincinnati here. Opened up as a 1.5-point road favorite, Ralph. I'm seeing 2.5 and 3s out there. So they love Cincinnati, not giving Temple I guess enough respect here at home.
Well, Aaron McKee's squad is only 10-7. They're 1-4 their last 5 games, and the only win was against Wichita State when Wichita State was coming off a double overtime win against Connecticut. I look at Cincinnati and I just have a bad taste in my mouth. I backed them when they went to Memphis, and the offense just looked horrible, and Temple's defense is playing great. Their problem is their offense. So as bad as Cincy looked at Memphis, I would lean with Temple. And perhaps that's just, you have to have a short memory when you're handicapping, and you can't hold grudges against teams. But there's also times where it's hard to get that taste out of your mouth when you watch that team and they were that bad.
Yeah, no, not the truth to that. And Ralph, on the board today, a lot of bounce back situations, intriguing as well as far as look at Auburn at home now taking on South Carolina. South Carolina kind of playing spoiler here, but this number, interesting enough, as far as Auburn goes at home, kind of on a losing streak now. I don't know if we're sticking a fork in them, but certainly the market isn't, because it opened up at 10.5. It's moving up, and so is the total big time. Opened up at 143. It's already up to 147, so they're expecting some scoring here from Auburn, South Carolina tonight.
Yeah, I was going to use Auburn as a situation, Joe, that I liked, because number one, you came in overrated at 15-0, and then you lose to your in-state rival, and then you go and play a very physical Florida team. I have no problems with those losses. Now you look at South Carolina. South Carolina is the team that was off back-to-back wins against Kentucky and A&M. They're having to travel for the 3rd time in 4 games and back-to-back games. South Carolina is down 1 player today. They had 2 players hurt this past week. They will be down 1 starter. So situationally, I clearly do like the Tigers.
Okay, talk to us, Ralph. How about a dog here tonight? Is there a dog on the card here that you circled that you like?
Yeah, I'm going to go with there's a bunch of them. I'm going to go with Western Kentucky. I think they're strong enough to go into Marshall. I have the game power rated at Western Kentucky, a 2-point favorite. So, I'm looking at a situation where, Marshall does have a strong home court. It's a smaller home court. An interesting dynamic because CUSA, we saw it with UTEP and UTSA last week, and it holds true here again that these two teams are going to play back-to-back games.
Mm-hmm.
So CUSA chased it in, just trying to see what the dynamic is. So they play Wednesday and then they play Saturday. Western Kentucky to me is, has a clear edge on offense. They had an injury early in the year, and then they went to Jordan Rawls, a freshman at point guard, and it really opened up the scoring for them. So, they're a small team. Their tallest player in their starting lineup is only 6'6", but that's something Marshall really doesn't expose. Their tallest player is 6'9", and Bennett's not, a huge scorer in that role inside. So the matchup I like, the situation I like, and I'll grab the points.
An interesting one too, Ralph. I'm not fading them. Obviously, they have the better team in this matchup, but I just think it's a total letdown spot as Louisville finally goes back home. Monster road trip here, guys. The last 3 games for them ended up them beating Duke and Cameron Indoor. Monster game. And now they come home, and they're a 13.5, 14-point favorite over a Georgia Tech team who, obviously they're banned from postseason play. Those of you who don't know, and that, it's kind of been an up and down season. But I'll say this, Ralph, they're 7-2 against the number on the road this year, which means they often get undervalued in spots, and exactly a spot like this where this would it surprise me at all to see Louisville come out a little bit flat? Yeah, they're going to win the game. Are they going to win by 2 touchdowns? I think we've seen Georgia Tech at times here. They got some of the players back earlier in the year, some of those eligibility issues. To me, I think that asking a 14-point win here after coming off this stretch that they just did might be a little bit too much. I'll take the 14 points in Georgia Tech in this one.
Joe, as you were talking, I looked something up, and it shocked the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Louisville off that win. And I'm not saying this is a reason not to listen to your play, but it's just sometimes when you think of a situation and you think, oh, that's a negative.
Right.
Teams that have beaten Duke since 2017 have gone 6-0 straight up, 5-0-1 against the spread the next game.
Damn. Okay, so they get a little energy.
So just something I expected to be a negative, you look it up.
Love that.
And so it's, just a bizarre number, but it's certainly eye-popping.
It's interesting, too, because Louisville just beats Duke. Georgia Tech didn't beat them, but Georgia Tech certainly was under the number and covered. They only lost by 9 to Duke there, so a common opponent that they played tough. And, here we go, giving me 14 points. It's all about value, but would it shock me that Louisville wins? No. So, but at 14 points, it's worth a couple of bucks to see if they can't keep it within the number, at least early on anyway, because they've been a giant, Georgia Tech is a giant pain in the ass on a lot of levels here. Just ask Ralph.
You look at Georgia Tech going back to Christmas. They beat Hawaii.
Right.
They lose to Florida on the road by 12, a top 20 team. Beat North Carolina, like you said, lose to Duke by 9, a top 20 team. Beat Boston College. The Notre Dame's the only bad loss.
Right.
And then they lost to Virginia by 5, this past week. So, the Notre Dame loss by 4 at home was a loss. But, as the season progresses, Josh Pastner always has a defense that continues to improve.
Yep.
They're a top 40 defense now, and they will get better. And you have to remember that Jose Alvarado missed the first 7 or 8 games of the season, their best player as well. So things may just start gelling for Georgia Tech a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be it'll be a fun defense is what's going to keep guys covering games, and 7-2 away from home, that tells you everything you need to know about defense in Georgia Tech there, guys. There are 2 That's right. Two featured games here in the Big Ten we want to talk about, Ralph. One of them is now everybody's darling. How about Rutgers, Ralph? Finally making it into the get that little number next to their name. Finally, they get a little bit of love and deservedly so. Taking on a Iowa team, Ralph, in Iowa, which is never an easy place to play here. And let me see if I can get an updated an updated line here on this game, because this one is tough here, Ralph. Opens up 5.5 for Iowa at home, remains 5.5. You want to talk about a game? It appears Iowa getting all the love, but I'm not getting any line movement, so that means Rutgers certainly seeing the bigger bets come their way as an underdog in this one.
Oh, I clearly lean the Hawkeyes. Like I said, I love the Scarlet Knights. I am so impressed at what they've done. They are a physical defensive team. You know, when you look back and I watched some of that Minnesota game, Richard Pitino after the game just said they just kicked our ass. Mm-hmm. They were bigger, they were more physical, and they wanted the ball more. But you know, Rutgers away from home, they've played of their 14 wins, 13 were at home. And the RAC, the Rutgers Athletic Center, small little 8,000. It's not like the other Big Ten arenas. You know, the Big Ten has arenas. They play in big, you know, Penn State plays smaller. But, you know, Rutgers is in a unique situation. And you look at their losses at Illinois, you know, at Michigan State, at Pittsburgh, at Bonaventure in a neutral setting. Their only road win this year was at Nebraska, which, you know, is the Big Ten's worst team, or maybe Northwestern is maybe the second worst team.
Right.
So, you know, you have a team that wants to play slower in Rutgers against a team in Iowa that wants to play faster. It's offense against defense. The difference is, you know, Iowa elite defense, Iowa elite offense, Rutgers elite defense. Iowa defense better than Rutgers offense at home and can control the pace.
Yeah, it's I would love to back Rutgers. I'm with you, but I think this is a big test here, right? Because we've seen certainly in the Big Ten, how many teams can we trust to win games on the road against opponents like Iowa in Iowa? And while it's been a nice run for them, I don't know that I can trust them in this spot, although it does seem people early are, as Iowa's getting an awful lot of love, but the smaller percentage certainly looks like is backing Rutgers, and there must be a couple of bucks associated with that, Ralph, because this line ain't moving, so it's stuck at 5.5, as is the total. So I'm going to guess that Rutgers currently maybe a few extra bucks there, but I give them credit. But listen, they're going to make it the NCAA tournament, right? I mean, how many people thought that to start the year with Rutgers? I don't know if they're ready for this, being 1-3 on the road. Iowa 10-1 at home, guys. Garza is he's a beast, especially in his own court there. I just don't know that it happens, Ralph.
Yeah, I agree. Rutgers is going to be a tournament team, and yeah, Garza is a special player, and you know, you have Weiskamp who puts up the points, and you know, and Ryan Kreiner as well. So you know, you have multiple shooters. So you know, the thing to remember is, you know, when we talk about percentages and line movers, this is a Big Ten game on TV.
Oh yeah,
and it's getting a lot of love. Vegas can take $200,000 in bets. If they're all $20 and $50 bets, they're not going to move the line.
Yep.
They only move the line for the bigger bets or from respected bettors. So, you know, they don't mind being one-sided when it's public money and small time. So there are times where, you know, we see a 70% of the bets are on one side, but there's no line movement. And there's some times where there's 50-50 and we see a 2-point move. So again, our viewers just need to understand the Vegas perspective of why they move a line and when they move a line.
Yep.
It's just not $1,020 bets. They don't care about that at all, and they will not move the line because of that.
Yeah, and think also, guys, as far as It is winter. It is Big Ten. Travel's a pain in the ass in the winter right now. It's. I would also think that Iowa probably dominates the first half of this game, Ralph, because it's never easy in the Big Ten to be able to travel like that in the cold. Out in Iowa. It might take them a little while to rev up the engines there, so I wouldn't at all be opposed to back in Iowa there in the first half, too, at home to be able to get the job done. 2 or 2.5, somewhere around there. You can probably get the number. But kudos to Rutgers, certainly a team worth keeping an eye on. And then the other Big Ten on, Ralph, Penn State coming off of that absolute smoke job against Iowa State at home. Now, prior to that game, Ralph, Iowa State wasn't great. It was nice to go home. It was kind of what the doctor ordered because they weren't doing great on the road, and here they find themselves back on the road here, Ralph, in a situation where it's going to be this is going to be a tough game for them as we get a updated line here. Let me check out. Same type of situation, -5 for Michigan. 150 opened up as a total. I'm seeing 147, so that's coming down. Another one of these big, heavily bet games right now, but the line's not moving. This looks a lot closer to to 60-40 Michigan to Penn State, but no line movement as of yet, Ralph. Penn State, do you trust them on the road?
Joe, what was that? What was the total again?
150 it opened. I've got them down to 147 at pretty much most of the shops. Yeah,
I just misheard. Yeah, that's the right number. In my mind, Michigan is an elite 3-point shooting defense.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan has, again, it's the Big Ten. You look at their record. Their 5 losses. 4 of them on the road, and 1 a home loss to Oregon in overtime by 1 point. So, I just can't see Michigan losing this game.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Penn State, their only road win was at Georgetown back in November. So that was before Georgetown got rid of their problem players, and, they were trying to figure out who they were going to play. So, it's another situation where, I look at the home team and I think it's gonna be Michigan winning and covering.
Yeah, and I would also look. I lean to the under here, guys. I think there's a reason why it's dropping from 150 to 147, 147.5. Penn State, Ralph, not exactly pace-wise one of the faster ones in the conference or in the country. I think they get about 67 possessions, if I'm not mistaken. About 67 possessions or so is what they've been averaging, or at least as of late anyway. They've really slowed it down. And you're talking about defense. You mentioned it. Strong defensive teams. Michigan 10-4 to the under in the last 14 games when they are a favorite at home, under 6 points. So that kind of fits that mold and that model. I don't see why that trend would break tonight. I wouldn't at all be surprised if the under hits.
Joe, that's a great point, because if you look at their adjusted tempo the last couple of weeks is still in the top 100, but you look at them year to date, and their numbers they're 39, or as KenPom goes. But
right.
You look at those early games where they scored 98 against Bucknell and 81 against Georgetown and 91 against Wagner and 90 against Cornell. So those are games that even the 89 against Iowa. That's a Big Ten team that you have to throw out because Iowa's the anomaly where they want to press the pace. So can't argue that point at all.
All right, so time for our best bets here, guys. And a quick reminder as well, wagertalk.com. If you haven't done so, what are you waiting? Big card here tonight. Ralph is, I am sure, chock full of big plays there available right now at wagertalk.com. Go under the handicappers page there. Look for Cal Sports. Go ahead. Sign on 3 days, 7 days. Never miss a play, guys, especially this time of year. You'd be absolutely crazy not to hop on with a 30-day pass for Ralph. These games, as you can tell, over 50 tonight. You had 25 last night. There's always opportunities for you to keep the cash register ringing. Continue to build that bankroll there in college hoops. So, Ralph, talk to me, man. Tonight, best bet-wise, where are you looking on a card? Lord knows we got no shortage of them here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down south and go to one of the smaller conferences.
Ooh.
And Chattanooga is a team that's 12-7. They came out of non-conference 6-5, and They played Greensboro, and for those that don't know, in the Southern Conference or the SoCon, East Tennessee State and Greensboro are the class. And Chattanooga hang with them. They had a lead with 10 minutes to go, and then they got outscored something like 25-6. So I have a positive team that was 6-1 going into a road game against the league leader, was competitive for most of the time, got blown out late. So they're focused now back at home against the Citadel team, which is as bad as they get. The Citadel team is also number 6 in tempo. So when I have a team that's deep, that is off a bad loss, that's returning home, and they're playing a weaker foe that wants to press the pace, well, that's going to give me 40 minutes of a lot of scoring with a lot of depth. So, I think it's a game Chattanooga runs out to early and keeps going. I have, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're 9 deep right now. Chattanooga is on their bench. So that gives me some leeway to pull away with this number.
One of the games I'm looking at, Ralph, ACC matchup, and this is a rematch of a game from earlier in the season. How about Notre Dame at home taking on Syracuse? The first game, Ralph, they hit 175 damn points. I don't think Notre Dame missed a 3-point shot in that game in the carry. To me, I do not see this following the same game path there. I think that was an anomaly. As far as pace of play, and you tell me, these are two teams in the 200s, right? I mean, like Notre Dame is like 210, somewhere around there, and I'm pretty sure Syracuse this year not even is somewhere in the middle of the 200s there. Solid defense, a better defensive team the Irish have been at home. I do like Syracuse. I like what they've done, but both of these teams only averaging in the 60s. I think, what are we doing, 61 or 62 points Notre Dame is giving up at home, or averages at home, and meanwhile they only average about 69 points on the road, that being Syracuse. I don't see how this gets to 142, 143 here, which is where the number is. I'm certainly leaning the under in this game. I'd be damned if they score 175 points here.
I read the Syracuse paper this morning, too, as I was looking at this game. So I jotted this number down, Joe. 15 of 31 was what they shot.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, don't see that happening there. So, and the under, by the way, 20-7 at home. So that's what you've got going on there. So congratulations if those of you that have been here hanging out with us, following us. Get to wagertalk.com. Thanks very much for making us a part of your day here on the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. It's all about college hoops. Get to wagertalk.com. Get Ralph's plays. Make some money tonight. Come back. We'll break it down. We'll get you ready again for tomorrow. So, Ralph, enjoy yourself. Good luck with the plays, brother. We'll talk again tomorrow.
We'll talk to you in 23, Joe.